etc. Today I'm joined by the amazing, the incredible, if you haven't seen it on Instagram, Facebook and everything else, the wonderful Omar Chihane. How are you, mate?
I'm great.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I know there's lots of people out there who will be going, my God, he's got an awesome barber and he's got fantastic hair. So what are you, a hairdresser? What are you, a male groomer for a living?
I'm a part-time hairdresser, part-time entrepreneur.
He's obviously probably the best looking guy we've had on the show. We're going to get him into the movies at some stage in the future. So Omar is the co-founder of WeSellAnyHome.com. So if you don't know what that business is, we're going to be finding out more about that this afternoon. Please come and join us with your questions. Okay, put your thumbs up, put your hearts out there and let us know. Okay, and share the content that we're producing today with your audience, because maybe some other people out there could benefit from learning what Omar has to teach us today. So I've got a bunch of questions I'm going to ask him in a while, but first of all, I'll let Omar introduce himself. Hold on, Omar, take your laptop away. Okay, and then say hi to Amma, everyone. Make sure your thumbs up for Amma and Lizzie here. Don't forget that. They're behind the scenes, behind the camera while I'm here in front of it. So Omar.
Yep.
We sell any home.
Sell any home.
Sorry, sell any home. Oh, I get that wrong all the time. Okay, so sellanyhome.com.
Yeah.
That idea of that business came off the back of what?
Well, I mean, it was off the back of creating real-time market coordination. Obviously, my partner Saigon is running sellanycar.com, which is essentially doing the same thing for cars, which is creating real-time market coordination between buyers and sellers. So that shortens the sales cycle, that speeds up the sale, and that injects a lot more liquidity into the market. So if you sell fast, it attracts more buyers, property values go up, and then it's almost like trying to create the real estate stock exchange, so to speak.
Okay, and so where did the idea come from? Did it come from looking at Sell Any Car and saying, do you know what, let's mimic it because we can mimic it for many different things?
I mean, I had a personal experience where essentially someone just picked up the phone, called me and said, give me a price on a property. And then it's like, wait a minute, if people could actually do that remotely, why not trying to create a marketplace for it? I've known Saigon for a while. I knew of his model quite a bit, and then we connected the dots, and I think that was quite an easy decision for me to make.
Okay, and so how long has the business been going?
August 2017. So in 2 months it'll be 1 year.
Oh, it's such a baby.
Yeah, it is.
And what's the journey been like for you?
It's been amazing, and we've gone through a boatload of ups and downs. It's one of these things that you feel like a genius sometimes, and you really want to kill yourself other times. So it's constant roller coaster you go through. So yeah, it's been really good. I guess don't get caught up with your business model. Always be open to kind of trying new things to kind of perfect it and get to a point where you're happy, and I think we are at that point right now.
Now, the real estate industry is a really kind of traditional type of business, and has been kind of, apart from the fact that they've gone from black and white photocopies to color digital images over the years, it's been a very similar business in the last 20 or 30 years. There's nothing really unusual changed.
Couple of 100 years. I think not last 20 years the internet introduced classifieds, and since then there wasn't much disruption, but this is actually really coming. The real estate industry, I think, is going to be totally different in the next 5 to 10 years, like completely different. The business model itself is being shifted, so there's quite a lot of disruptions coming, and I think there's a lot of auxiliary markets that will also disrupt. So driverless cars, for instance, will absolutely completely and utterly disrupt the real estate market, because you don't need parking lots in the middle of cities anymore, and your buildings don't need 5 floors of parking anymore, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's just really undergoing a lot of disruption.
Okay, so what was the plan then with sellanyhome.com to disrupt? Was it a plan to disrupt, or was it a plan to look at the industry and say, hey, people don't get what's changing, let's jump and take advantage of the changes that we see?
I mean, the way, if you Michio Kaku's disruption framework, I call it disruption framework, he calls it how to become a billionaire, which is essentially identify an industry, identify the players, all the middlemen, list down all the key pain points, and then digitize it. So the key for us was to speed up that process, create a marketplace where buyers and sellers could basically meet, and we've been able to digitize that process quite a bit.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, and so it wasn't so much to drive a disruption, but so much to speed up the actual sales process as much as we can, and try to drive as much transparency in the process as we can.
Okay, so I'm Joe Average on the street,
yeah,
and I've got a property and I'm looking to sell it.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, it works both ways. If you're looking to sell it, you go on our website, you enter basic information about your property. We give you a high-level estimate value of your property. And we also tell you in real time if we have a ready buyer for that property, right? Similarly, on the opposite side, if you're a buyer, you come in and you give us basic information about what you're looking to buy. We ask a few more questions, understand what it is that you're looking to buy, and then we basically make that match. So for a buyer, we don't show you 100,000 properties. We show you one, the right one, pre-curated, pre-negotiated for you. So you can just basically make a very quick decision so that it doesn't go through that kind of loop of trying to close the buy, but not really answering the demand.
Okay, so I'm Mr. Average on the street. Does this system mean with you guys that I don't have to meet a real estate broker?
In a way, we're actually a managed marketplace. So we act as the real estate broker as well in the middle. So,
okay.
So the key for us, though, is to actually use our own tools to create that real-time market coordination, right? Okay. So sellers and buyers come to us. We don't actually cold call anyone or anything like that. So we actually have a system that collects that data, and those buyers come to us directly, and the sellers come to us directly.
But hold on a minute. People like cold calls. They like to get cold calls. People like to make cold calls.
Yeah, right.
They do, don't they?
Not so much. So I think it wasn't so much the cold call. I think that's really a very good traditional way of doing business. There's nothing wrong with it. The biggest issue we found was actually to be able to scale that. You can't. I mean, if you're digitizing something, you're able to make the equivalent of 1 million cold calls, 1 billion cold calls in a millisecond. So you're actually using technology to be able to go out there and find people that are looking to buy a home or looking to sell a home, rather than the human interaction of having to dial and having to speak to someone, et cetera, et cetera. So it was just a matter of trying to render the process a lot more scalable and sustainable way. But obviously, we work with a lot of agencies. We work with a lot of agents still because there is that partnership that goes on. But our job is to try to streamline the process. We want to make it easier for someone to buy. We want to make it faster for someone to sell. Pretty much it.
Okay. So all of you out there, hi guys, how are you doing? Craig's joined us, Wizam, Kareem, Joe, how are you doing? Dave Cole's on. Mark, you've joined us as well. Guys, some of you guys are in real estate, and there's a lot more of you that will join through this as well. So just to recap and make sure that you understand what we're talking about here. Okay, Omar Chihane, co-founder of sellanyhome.com, okay, business partner of a guy called Saigin, which a lot of you know through social media from sellanycar.com. They've built this business model to try and disrupt the real estate industry, and they're having success doing so. I talk to a lot of real estate brokers out there, as you all know, you guys, about how the industry is evolving and how the industry is changing. And it's on conversations I have with people like Omar that are teaching me how to look at that industry differently, and how you guys out there should be looking at your businesses differently to see what you can do. A lot of people look at the unicorns. Okay, sorry.
The cameraman's here.
They look at the unicorns. They look at the Ubers. They look at the Airbnbs, and they sit there and going, "Oh wow, wouldn't it be amazing if we could have that, or we could do that?" People talk about that as something that's happened far afield from a company over in Silicon Valley. Yet Uber happens, and everyone does the Uber of this and the Uber of that, and then they move on to the realization that Kareem are here.
Yep.
And Kareem did it over here. And so what you have to understand is that disruption taking place geographically with different businesses is happening every day. How is your business changing? How are you evolving? Okay, just to take what Omar just said, okay, 1 million cold calls a second. Essentially, if you could do that, just think about how that would make a difference to your business by using technology. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Because people might not know much about you.
Sure.
Okay, they'll know that you're devilishly handsome.
So I like to call myself my hardware is Lebanese and my software is Canadian. So I'm born in Lebanon, raised in Canada, moved to Dubai in 2008, and I've been here since. I've been actually mostly in the corporate world until I actually jumped onto my entrepreneurial journey, and that's pretty much who I am.
Okay, so you weren't a real estate broker from the age of 16?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so how long have you been involved in the real estate industry?
Since, obviously before I launched, but I was preparing the tech side of it. So essentially, technically, since August 2017.
Okay, August 2017.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
I'm 37.
Okay, so you've been involved in the real estate sector for less than a year.
Yeah.
And you're doing something disruptive that there are people that have been involved in real estate here in Dubai and in other countries forever that haven't looked at it like that. This is what fascinates me.
Yeah.
You know, we can take Property Finder and other organizations like that across the world. There are different companies, but they're not financial services people. Sorry, they're not real estate people. Right. They're people that have come from a completely different industry to do what they do.
And I think, I mean, when we started, a lot of our team didn't start off in real estate either, right? So it was predominantly to look at, because especially if you're trying to do something disruptive, you'll always hear that won't work. You'll always hear that's not something that's going to pick up, no one's going to do this, et cetera, et cetera. For me personally, that's pretty much my cue to start. The second I hear someone pretty much from the industry that said you can't do that, that's the second I start saying, wait a minute, let me just have a look at it. And real estate as a whole is being disrupted. The financial model as a whole is disrupted. Building technology is being disrupted. And obviously the marketplace itself, the way you buy real estate is being disrupted. So, and that's a perfect storm, right? So if you think about the financial model itself and building technologies and the way people buy, I mean, that's just prime for disruption. It's probably one of the biggest industries in the world. I think it's $54 trillion of investable real estate that's been done super traditionally without the use of technology. Now you have blockchain on financial side. You have the ability to tokenize any asset. You have space arbitrage on the financial bit, so which means that you could rent out you're parking outside. You could rent it to someone who's going to an office space. Now you're monetizing other aspects of your home that otherwise you wouldn't monetize. So many things are being disrupted in real estate that this is pretty much this is our calling here.
Do you think, I've got a friend of mine that owns a gîte in Provence, okay, and he said to me, Spence, is there any chance that you could share on Facebook the property that I've got, and if anyone in Dubai is interested in renting out rooms, okay, to come to us? And I was like, well, why are you coming to me? You know, you've got a really successful business. You're on TripAdvisor, you're number one listed or 5-star, whatever it is. You know, people really like your product. He's like, we're being battered by Airbnb. He said, we really are. So that is obviously a big disruption and the fear that someone like Ian has with his gîte and his cookery school and all that kind of stuff down there in Provence. The real estate broker here in Dubai and the guys that own real estate brokerages here in Dubai, again, what's the future for them looking like? Are they going to get into a situation where they are going to be obsolete in the near future?
I mean, look, I was in a room filled with Fortune 500 senior execs, and my first opening line wasn't exactly good. It was essentially, if you're a middleman, you have to find a way to disrupt your own business model or you're dead. Because that's what technology does. It actually removes middlemen. And essentially, if you're a real estate broker, you constantly have to think about how do you actually disrupt your own model? How do you speed up some processes? How do you add to it? How do you bring in different technologies into a sales cycle? How do you package in a product in a different way? Whereas traditionally, I'll package a product that's a 4-bedroom house for a family. Now with Airbnb, you could split that up. So your revenue stream is completely different. So essentially, it's really trying to be on trend with what technology is doing, how technology is changing. I mean, there are people that are buying fractions of buildings in Manhattan. Fractions of a building in Manhattan where you and I could never afford that entire building. Now we could afford to actually partake in the revenue stream of so that entire business model is really, really shifting. It's super exciting.
So when you look forward towards the future of business for yourself, a lot of people will look traditionally. A lot of people will say, well, I can't think like Omar. I haven't got the education that Omar's got. I can't see those opportunities quite as easily. But you mentioned something just a second ago about disrupting your own industry. Is that probably not a great way of looking forward yourself as an individual to say, well, hold on a minute, where is my industry right now? What is it doing? And what could it be doing a lot better? And what traditional methods are we using that cost us an awful lot of time and money and energy that we don't need to use? Yeah,
I think disruption and innovation does not happen when you ask yourself why. It happens when you ask yourself why not. So it's why can't I do this? What are the reasons? What are the things that are stopping me from doing it? Is there a solution to it? And essentially, if you start looking, everybody has like a conventional wisdom around what works, what doesn't work. Question that wisdom, and you're really on the right path, because ultimately you're going to find the 3 things that everybody thinks this is the only way to do it, and you actually find a different way to do it. And I think in any industry you're in, the key is to constantly understand where is the tide going on the outskirts. So if I'm in real estate and I'm a developer, for instance, I want to start understanding where driverless cars is going. Why? Because my next building that I'm building in 2025 is likely not going to have 5 floors of parking. simply
Sure.
because those driverless cars will likely be parked on the outskirts, and if parked at all, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of these, you have to look at the peripheries, and now I could sell a home to 500 different people, the same one home, because I've tokenized it. Of course, certain areas are allowing this to happen, other areas are not, but this is happening. Crowdsourcing or cryptocurrency through blockchain, where they're tokenizing homes. So a lot of these things are really disrupting, and they're turning on its head. And building technology is turning homes from net energy consumers to net energy producers. Exactly. Yeah. So imagine you have tiles, solar roof tiles, a solar roof where you could actually sell the excess energy that your home is producing back to some sort of a central repository. Well, add to that, let's say, an irrigation system within your home, and all of a sudden you have excess water if you live in a rainy area, etc. Just and to take it a step further, there are companies now that are actually monetizing elements within a building that you and I wouldn't think they're, and private equity companies getting into this now, buying elevator shafts, buying elevators inside of buildings.
No way.
Buying elevators and charging elevator per service. So they have a way to compute how many trips or how many way, and they're actually monetizing the heck out of it. Now, if you live in a big tower,
hold on. Did all of you just get that for a minute? Did you understand what he was just saying there? That's just insane, guys. Mark's on, Cameron, Lisa, Kate, how you doing? Okay, guys, come and join us with your questions. Alex over for England Volkers, how are you, hun? Craig, how are you from OBG? I mean, crikey, you got a load of real estate guys here. Come and ask us your questions. This is a really interesting conversation. So, elaborate on that. Let's go a bit further into that, because sorry for standing in front of you there.
That's fine, but if you live in a 30-story building, you're paying for the elevator service, you're paying for the service company, etc. There are companies out there that are, let's say, vertically integrated or horizontally integrated. They're elevator companies, and they're going in, and there's private equity companies now that are investing in this. They're going into a building association and say, you have 3 elevators that cost you X amount per year. We'll take that over, and we'll charge you a lot less, but over a longer period of time. So your actual monthly cost is reduced, right? But these guys are securing high returns, like 20, 25, 30% returns on actually buying the elevator and reselling it back as a service. And wow. You could take the elevator and build a pool with it for the compound or whatever, right? Yeah. So obviously this isn't happening in all markets, but there is technology, and there are people that are investing in elevator as a service. Imagine that. Now, you add big data to that. So you add, imagine if you're able to tokenize, for instance, everything, right? So imagine one day you're able to tokenize public infrastructure, right? So I would love to invest in a really cool highway that's coming that will have a toll system that will actually monetize it back to me. So crowdsourcing and all of the big data analytics that you could get from as little as understanding how people are actually being transported inside of a building, and you actually expand that to really understanding urban planning, right? So I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I've got some questions from people.
Sure.
Hope you don't mind. Some of them might not be as technical as you'd like them to be, okay? And some of them are business related, and some of them are really people asking for a bit of advice.
Sure.
Okay, so guys, if you've got questions, let us know what they are. Okay, come and join us if you're not on already. So come and where's the hearts, the love hearts? Where's the thumbs up? Where's the engagement? Come on, guys, I want your comments, I want your feedback. Okay, right. Carrie Jones here in Dubai, she's the first one.
Sure.
Okay. She's a real estate agent. All right, so I'm a real estate agent, and if what you're doing takes off, then basically, am I out of a job? How am I supposed to reinvent myself with the market changing so rapidly?
That's a good question. No, she's not out of a job. I don't think this is not what we're out to do. There's always going to be a tremendous amount of value that real estate agents will add to the process. I have real estate agents working for me in Sell Any Home, right? All we're doing is using technology and using our own tools to actually find buyers and find sellers. And we believe that methodology will enable us to scale. So I'll be happy to interview her and bring her on board if she does.
Well, there you go, Gary. That's interesting. Great. Okay, Mark from Johannesburg, he says, do you think that your business model would work in other markets? It's obviously got a lot of appeal in Dubai because the landscape and market is still new and people know the values of properties in certain areas quite well. Would this business work well in a country like South Africa, for example?
I mean, I would have to study South Africa, but I could tell you this business is working extremely well in the U.S. And there are companies that are now unicorn status running exactly a similar business model and taking it a step further where they're purchasing the home as well. So this model is working. There's one big problem in real estate that's been the problem since Alexander the Great registered the first real estate transactions 330 something BC. Liquidity, right? If you look back when you didn't have a stock market, people held on to stock for an average of 7 years. Today with the stock market, they could hold on to stock for an average of a millisecond, right? What that does is increases new entrants into the market. Mm-hmm. You'll buy stock from GE tomorrow because you could sell it whenever you want. Yeah. You have that freedom, right? And liquidity is really important because it actually increases the market size. There are more people in the world that don't own a home versus the people that do own a home, right? In general terms, right? So all we're trying to do is essentially, if we try to attack or target that problem liquidity, we're able to actually grow the market size rather than grow our footprint within a market, right?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Joel Connors from Dublin. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face setting up the business? I've just recently started an online store and I feel like a one-man circus at the moment.
I still feel like a one-man circus. I think it's the number one thing that I've learned, and I've had that chat 2 days ago actually with someone that kind of looked at me with a eureka face, was hiring the right people. That is incredibly critical, not because you can't make up your mind over who's right and who's wrong, but because unfortunately in any disruptive model, you actually don't know how it's going to work out. You know where you're heading, and you have a kind of a faint idea what you are trying to do, but how you get there doesn't really matter. Because if there's 4 different ways to Sunday, it's having the right attitude to actually bring it there. It's the right mindset. Now, here's where hiring the right staff comes into play. I've hired you today to do job A, B, and C. And I've realized that the business model that requires A, B, and C is no longer working. I really need to shift. All of a sudden, your job is D, E, and F. And you're looking at me going, Omar, that's not what I was hired to do. Yeah, I've been hired to do this, and all of a sudden, now you ask me to do that. So hiring the right staff in a disruptive business environment or a disruptive business model is my number one concern every day. To be fair to everybody, business included, and the people that we're bringing on board.
Okay, that's really interesting. I hear that a lot. Okay, Jenna from London says, I desperately want to do what no one else has ever done and disrupt the markets like you, but I'm terrified of the risk involved. How do you overcome the fear of failure with what you do? You
actually don't try to overcome the fear of failure. You welcome it with open arms. Because if you fear failure, you're actually going in with a mentality of this is the only way this will work. I go in with a mentality of this is where I'm heading. There are 15 potential ways. So I'm not going to throw the kitchen sink on any one of them. I'm just going to test out. And okay, there are 3 out of the 15 that are working. I'll let go of the 12. Now I'll focus a little more on these 3. And then I'll pick the one winning horse and then I'll throw the kitchen sink at it. So then failure is embedded in my business model. I know for a fact that out of 15, 13 are going to fail. And I'm okay with that as long as you don't throw the kitchen sink at it out of the gate, right? As long as you know that testing out with $10,000 is better than going all in with $1 million and just see, okay, is this working? The key there on failure, whether to understand whether something is a failure or not, make sure that you have enough data. Right? So this is the equivalent of someone walking in and asking someone for $5 and the man says, no, you can't get $5, walks out of the bar or whatever they were in and say, men do not give money out. You don't have enough data to actually come up with that conclusion. You have to ask enough people and to say, okay, this is now failing or this is now working, let's grow.
And that's online and offline.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't matter what business model you're trying to do, especially if you're trying to do something disruptive. Of course, if you're trying to do the conventional, disruption doesn't mean do something completely or come up with something that no one's thought of. Disruption could mean do it completely differently, right? So what is Uber? Uber is doing essentially something completely different. However, they're doing it differently, but what are they doing? They're just driving you for a fee. Yeah. Taxis are doing that, but they've done it differently. It's the business model innovation is as strong as process innovation, is as strong as product innovation, is as strong as logistics innovation, right? So the Dollar Shave Club, I mean, they get the margins razor thin, pardon the pun. That's highly innovative, right?
For those of you that don't know Dollar Shave Club, go to Dollar Shave Club on YouTube and watch the video from Mike, okay? And then you learn a little bit about how he started to market himself and his business, and then go and find out how much he sold that business for, because that was a really mighty fine opportunity. So go and check it out, okay? Dollar Shave Club, great answer. Okay, Sean Lindell from London. Hi, Omar. I wonder if you can help. Any advice on how to use the data that you have on people to help grow your business? I've collected tons of data on people through online and social media advertising, but I'm not really sure how to convert this data into actual sales.
The number one thing I could tell you is you have to identify what you're good at and what you're not good at. And if I had that problem and I don't know where to start, I'll actually bring in a business intelligence person or a data scientist or a physicist, which is essentially usually better than...
Or save the money in doing that and ask you the question live on air.
I mean, ultimately, you would have to understand the correlations, right?
Yeah.
So you would have to understand the behavioral correlation between the cause and effect of your customers, for instance. So someone comes in, you have to understand your user's journey. So get as much data as possible. And if you think you have enough, you probably still don't. Get even more data, and then you have to look at what is the cause and effect of that data. Where's that correlation coming? Yeah. What is the behavior that is being driven online, and how could you increase the good behavior, decrease the bad one, right? So if people are doing A, B, and C and not buying, how do you fix that aspect of it? Because they're bouncing at this state. So it's really what you're trying to get out of that data that you're understanding, and most importantly, how do you correlate that data? And don't make the mistake of assuming that data has a finite date. Understand that data sometimes has a lag. So you'll do something today and all of a sudden you're benefiting 3 months from now and you don't know why. Try to kind of take a helicopter view to understand where that correlation is, and you need to really get that regression analysis as strong as possible to be able to kind of say, that's the reason why I invest today to monetize in 3 months, right? And so then you're comfortable investing today and you're comfortable not monetizing tomorrow.
Yeah. Get it. Completely get it. Okay, great answers, don't you think? Okay, Craig Stockton from LA. It takes a huge amount of conviction to leave the corporate world and join in the entrepreneurial one. Obviously, this isn't a short-term goal. Or is it? Do you have any advice for those of us starting our own business and doing something different? Well, you come from that world, don't you? You come from corporate to go to entrepreneurial, so you're primed for that.
Exactly. And so... I mean, I've been asked this question so often, how did it feel to leave corporate? How did it feel to leave corporate? Or how did it feel to... I never felt that I really left it. I felt like I was ready for my next journey. I really felt that corporate gave me such an incredible experience, so many tools, and exposed me so much that I felt more ready than I ever was before. And conviction, you hit the nail on the head. What's his name again? Craig, you hit the nail on the head, because that's what it actually takes. Conviction, believe it or not, is actually counterintuitive. It's against human nature. Conviction is looking at a brick wall, running full-fledged, and knowing full well inside of you that you're going to find a way not to splatter yourself all over it. That's conviction. That's what it actually takes to win, because 99.999% of the people are going to look at that wall and stop. And if you have that conviction, it's almost counterintuitive. It's against human nature, but go for it.
Okay, great question and a great answer. Okay, Sanesh Pillai from India. How long do you think it takes on average for a company to become profitable? I've got an amazing idea for a company and I think it will do really well, but I don't have enough money saved to keep me going for very long at all.
I mean, it really depends on each business. I don't think, there might be a rule of thumb to say 3 to 4 years is kind of normal, but it really depends on each business and how much you're burning before you become profitable. So I can't really...
Okay, I think that's fair as well.
I'd say 3 to 4 years is conventional.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Let us know. Okay, let us know what you've got. Who else is out there? Whole bunch of you there. Guys, Daniela, how are you? Aunt, how are you? Steve Tharma, how are you? Lucy, Zoe, how you doing? Zoe went to Kilimanjaro with us. Okay. She was one of the warriors at Kili. How you doing, Zoe? We just got back. Lisa's on there as well. Hi, Lisa. How are you, hon? Katie and all these guys that are out there. Okay, so we've got some great questions that have come in for people, so thank you very much for answering them. Okay. Where are the other questions that I've got here? Here we go. There's some more questions here, actually. Some people may mistake your business for the digital version of a real estate agency. Okay, how do you describe your business model and how does it work?
So I'd say a real estate agency could be a stockbroker in Manhattan.
Yeah.
My business is the NASDAQ. So we're trying to actually create a real estate stock exchange, essentially, right? So we do have brokers working for us. But we're gunning after the real-time market coordination between buyers and sellers. So our main goal eventually is to be as touchless as possible within that interaction and try to have that happen on its own between buyers and sellers. Because every home has a buyer and every seller will find a buyer. The key is, can we find enough interested buyers and enough interested sellers, and then trying to basically just plug them together and connect them together.
Tell me, what do you think? It's a little bit off kind of like the line here. What do you think of cryptocurrencies?
I think, I mean,
love asking that question
yeah.
to people that might know more than me.
I think there's obviously definite merit in digital currency. Where that's heading, and I think that's where no one has a crystal ball, right? Is this here to stay? I strongly believe so. I think it's is this a bubble? Is this not a bubble? How, which one do I invest in? That I would never answer, because it's really difficult. But I genuinely believe it's the start of something. This is a personal opinion, obviously, and obviously it is in some areas really solving a lot of problems, speeding up, let's say, remittance, speeding up transfer processes, etc. Whereas normally it's multiple institutions dealing with each other. So there is definitely a case for it. Where that lands and how that kind of converge together, right? So are you going to end up with 3,000 new currencies every year? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. It's going to come to a point where there might be a little bit more
regulation around a few that are chosen.
And not just regulation. I think it's going to be essentially cobbled up in a few. But this is, again, a personal opinion. You really don't know where this is heading. But is it here to stay? Yes. Blockchain technology is here to stay. I think,
A lot of people talk about crypto, but they don't talk about blockchain. A lot of people in the know talk about blockchain, but your man on the street will talk about crypto. Obviously, you saw what happened when the prices went up a few months ago and then came horribly down. Right. And so the term cryptocurrency becomes an easy word that comes off the tongue when you're in the bar having a beer, shooting the shit. The faith that people have in crypto right now, I think, is far less than they had before, because of the volatility. The man on the street. But blockchain itself is where I believe, it's having massive differences, and blockchain can disrupt so much of the financial services landscape, can't
absolutely.
it?
I mean, it's doing so. It's happening right now. So the registrations of real estate in some countries where you could actually use blockchain. It's that kind of public ledger that enables that extreme transparency to become a reality in a way, right? So to kind of put it in layman terms. So blockchain technology is definitely the way of the future, and it's definitely going to be adopted across multiple industries. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about that. That's a definite. Now, how cryptocurrency plays a role, which is essentially tokenizing assets, etc., that sits on the blockchain, so that I know which asset you have and everyone else knows that asset, which cryptocurrency will take off, which one will not, etc. That no one really knows.
Okay.
There are some that are based on sound business models as well, but there's a lot of papers being written about, let's say, an ICO, which is an initial coin offering, is essentially a different way for a startup to raise capital for their business model that could perhaps use or not use the currency to actually make the business model successful. Right?
Okay, I'm going to ask you another question now. That's a little bit off. It could be the last questions, guys. Just a few more questions, then we'll end it and make sure that you guys can get on. And if you've got any questions, let us know. And if you don't get them through live, and you're watching this on a replay later on, then send a message to me with the questions, and I promise you I'll get them over to Omar, and Omar can answer those questions for us. You don't mind doing that?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. People are incredibly fearful of the camera.
Okay.
And they're fearful of social media.
Yeah.
And they talk about social media being part of their private lives, and they keep things separate. And I'm always banging on about the fact that, look, you need to use social media as a tool to help create exposure for your business and awareness for your business. There's a lot of people that still fear going down that path. Were you ever intimidated by that, or did you embrace it from the beginning? Is it something that you kind of like, oh, it's not really me? I mean, you're very natural right now, but I'm sure there must have been a time where you were like...
Follow me on Instagram, guys. Chihane. To be honest with you, gone are the days where the CEO could hide behind his company. And then it's essentially the leader of a company and the company become almost two separate brands. They help each other out. Right, and I think that for me on the business side, that was quite important. So it wasn't so much into social media until I got deep into entrepreneurship, right? And then this is where it actually gives you your own channel. At the end of the day, I could speak to customers, I could speak to colleagues, I could speak to my ecosystem on my own, and controlling that narrative and that ecosystem and that message is really important, because you could actually get it get what you want to get out there. So no, I think that is also the way of the future. I think as you start seeing how social media is influencing our behaviors, our buying behaviors. Social media influencers are influencing our behaviors, right? And for rightfully so. I mean, obviously some better than others, but at the end of the day, there's a case to be made around content consumption. Right, and all social media is doing is giving you a platform to create a show with hundreds and thousands of viewers, or hundreds of thousands of viewers, without having to go into a major broadcaster and take rights to broadcast and all of that stuff. And that's very powerful. I mean, what you're doing is you're creating content and you're giving away knowledge for free to whoever is out there looking at you. And I think there's nothing more powerful than sharing knowledge, because at the end of the day, we all end up in the same place, right? So, what are you going to do as, and during that journey, and how many lives you're going to impact? And I think social media gets you there. There's no way you could scale. You can't call 100,000 people concurrently, right? But you could talk to them because they're all logged on. So,
I agree. Hello. Okay, so if anybody wants to follow you, just make sure that we know what the handles are, and maybe Emma, you can add these at the bottom as well afterwards. Chihane, so
Ochihane.
Okay, that's on
mainly,
Instagram.
Mainly Instagram and Facebook. I do a little bit of Twitter, but I'm really not active at all on Twitter. So
okay, look out for him. If you can't find him through his handle on Instagram, then just scroll through and find the person with the best haircut and the smartest beard.
I didn't see that one.
And you do. Guys, thanks very much for joining us. Okay, it's been great having you on this afternoon. Any questions, as I've said, let us know. Please give us as much feedback as you want, and let us know what you want to learn more about. It's been so much fun having a chance to chat with someone as bright as Omar with as many great ideas. Thanks for coming and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and we'll see you soon, folks. Whatever you do today, make sure that you get out there and make it happen. See you soon. Bye-bye now.